All right, so today we're going to be reviewing my 2021 Ford Mustang Mach E. And this one is the California Route 1 edition, so you get that 305 miles per charge, EPA rated. And this one comes in rapid red metallic on the black onyx Active X. And then we have that rear wheel drive set up with the motor in the back, putting out 290 horsepower. And there's that beautiful front end there. We have LED daytime running lights along with LED reflector headlamps. And then here we have 18-inch aluminum wheels. We have plastic covers on them to be more aerodynamically efficient. And then to open the door, when it's unlocked, you just press that button. And then we have the controls for the power windows, power mirrors, and we can also fold them as well, and they have blind spot monitors in them. And then we have our power door lock switches as well as memory seating. And then we just open the door by pulling up there. Headlamp controls. And there's our power driver's seat with power lumbar support. And same thing with the rear door to open that. And we'll just hop in here real quick. So pretty good legroom for this kind of vehicle. I'm 6'3", and of course I have the seat in front of me adjusted for myself. And then I still have legroom back here, and there's barely touching the back of the seat. My headroom is really good though, probably a couple inches up there. But down here we have our rear AC vents, and then we have a USB, and then a USB-C, and then a USB-A charge port down there. And there's our center seat with cup holders. And there's that fixed glass roof there. But next we're gonna go ahead and check out the back. And there's that back in there, and we have LED tail lights. And a pretty good sized trunk. But I'm gonna show you how the seats go down. So we can just hit this here. And then of course I have this car seat here, but those will fold flat. Probably be easier to show the other side. So we just go over here. Oops. And then that'll fold flat. And we can just fold it back up, locks back into place. And there's the front passenger seat, no power or anything there. Probably one of my only regrets about getting this trim level. But of course this one has the 88 kilowatt hour battery, so I really just wanted that extra range. Let's go ahead and check out the front. To get that open, you just pull up there. And there's that. And of course, they give you this from Ford, and it already comes with the plug and everything for a 240. And I usually just plug this in overnight, and it's supposed to charge in 11 hours from a dead battery. And of course, I messed up closing that, which I do it all the time. But I'm gonna show you how to do it correctly. You basically have to slam it. So from right here, you just go ahead and Now it's closed. And then that's a charge port there, and then this kind of lights up based on your percentage. But now it's hop in the driver's seat. So I really love this ActiveX steering wheel, just really thick, easy to grip. And there's the Apple CarPlay pulled up, and we have this big, I think it's like 15-inch radio. So there's a nav there, music there, phone, all that. And then we also have our XM. And it makes it easier to expand all of your options by hitting this up here. So we can have a full screen, and then all of my presets are set up. Or we can minimize that and then have these up. So I can pull up my Apple CarPlay on the fly, pull up my trip distance. And this is actually pretty neat because I can see how my driving is based on how much energy I'm using. So acceleration is at 97%, deceleration 100, speed is at 100. So usually over 65 or 70 miles an hour, that speed starts to go down because it's not efficient. But driving around town, that's usually pretty good. But this acceleration and deceleration tends to fluctuate based on your driving. There's the backup camera with the 360 view. And if you listen closely, there's that ding outside, which I really like because it's got a refined sound. It's not annoying, but it also lets people know you're backing up. And then we have dual zone automatic climate controls. And one of my only complaints is you have to hit this button to pull up the AC to actually fool with it. Close the vents and all that. And this E-heat, that'll suck your battery dry. But it's part of having an EV. And then down there we have a USB-C and a USB-A input, so I can plug my phone in. Usually charges faster than this wireless charging pad here. Then we have cup holders and our shifter, which is a rotary knob, so reverse, neutral, drive, and then you can just press that for low mode. And then you can self-park by hitting that there. And it'll pull up the active park assist. Hazards, electronic parking brake. Pull up to engage, press down to disengage. And on the storage, they really utilize the extra space there. You have some storage underneath there. And then this armrest comes up. And then you can either have something on top here, or you can pull this back. And then plenty of space in here. Keep a lot of stuff in there. I probably shouldn't. And there's a view of the back seat from up here. And then here's our glove compartment. That's the owner's manual booklet right there. But back to the screen, it's really easy to pull up your drive modes here. So you have engage, which is basically your sport mode, whisper, which is your eco mode, and then unbridled, I consider that sort of a track mode. Of course, this would be sport, this would be normal, and this would be eco, but this really kind of opens it up as much as it'll go, and I really like that. I keep it in unbridled about 90% of the time. And sunglasses there, universal home remote there. And then I think this one can be equipped with the Blue Cruise based on that there, but I have the adaptive cruise control. I can adjust the gap, the lane keeping system, and then Bluetooth controls over here, volume controls, track list, radio station controls there. And there we have the gauge cluster. It's pretty simple, but I really like how they did it. And we'll kind of look into that more when I take it on a test drive. There's push button start there. finally, here's the key fob. And then of course I can use forward pass on my phone, but it's still a little buggy. So I tend to just use the fob. But next we're gonna go ahead and take this Mustang Mach E California Route 1 out on the road for a quick test drive. So I will say this car is fast enough for me, and in my opinion it's fast enough just to not be dangerous. You get a 0 to 60 time of about 6.1 seconds, maybe 5.9, but it's really, if you put your foot down, it'll go, but it won't go fast enough to throw you back in the seat where you can't control it. I had a 19 Model 3 and it kind of did that. Mine was a Standard Range Plus and that was fun, but this right here is just a really practical vehicle. And one of the biggest reasons I got it was because I just had a daughter, so I wanted something where she could have space in the back without being scrunched up. And this, along with the tax credit and the range, that's why I went with this car over my Model 3. Which, like I said, it's not as fast as the Model 3, but it's more fun to drive in my opinion. And I have the one pedal drive on now, which about 80% of the time will work unless I have to stop abruptly. But what's great about the Mach E is you're always using regen and it's kind of blended. So even when you hit the brake pedal, it doesn't have a fluctuation of the brake pedal feel. It's just when you hit the brake pedal, it has a really sharp bite. So you kind of have to get used to it, and you never really do. But it's really not that big of a deal in my opinion. You can just never have a really crisp stop unless you're able to not touch the brake pedal. And I think the Tesla was a little bit better in that aspect. And you'll probably be able to see when I go over this bump, but there are a few humps on the road that are really rough, and the back end just, it drives like a Mustang, it really does. So when people complain about using the Mustang name, this is a Mustang. I've driven plenty of them, and this drives just like one. I mean, very, very heavy in the back. If I have my daughter in the back seat and we go over that bump, she basically catches air, which she likes, but her mother doesn't. And I really love the unbridled sound. That's one of my favorite things about this drive mode, other than, of course, having everything that you can have in terms of power. But it's just really, really fun to get that sound going. And if you come out of a corner and nail it, it'll slide, and it's super, super fun. But the traction control, I've heard a lot of complaints about it. I think mostly because it won't pass that moose test. I don't know who does that, but basically if there was something in front of you and you were to swerve, it kind of doesn't keep that line. But when you do give it too much throttle, instead of sending you completely sideways, it kind of keeps that same line, if that makes sense. So I never feel like I'm about to lose control of this car, even though it may slide quite often if I push it. If you're not pushing this car, it really does drive very well. And the next thing I'll probably do to this is put in a sound system. It's really the only thing it needs. This has the stock, I think it's like 6 speakers. And it's not a bad sound. It sounds like my mom used to have a 2011 Ford Edge, and the system was good for a stock system, but you can only push it so much. So I don't know if I'll need to possibly tune the radio as well, but the system is definitely lacking for someone like myself, who is pretty much a connoisseur in sound systems. So I prefer Bose sound systems or Meridian, something like that. So that's probably what I'm gonna end up putting in here. And the other thing is this rapid red metallic really sticks out. So people who have not, I've gotten so many compliments on this car. From people who've never seen one in person, from people who have been following them on the internet. I've been told dozens of times, hey, is that new electric Mustang, or is that Mustang truck? And it's just funny having to explain myself to every person, because people always have questions or want to take a picture of it, something like that. In my opinion, this is really the car to beat. Most EVs, I mean, Teslas are great for what they are, but unlike legacy manufacturers, they're kind of learning as they go. And Ford knows how to make cars, Chevy knows how to make cars. Now, I will say they tend to be a little cheaper, especially GM, with how they manufacture their vehicles, but they want to charge premium price points. But I feel like this is absolutely perfect because it's really practical. They look amazing, and they're just so much fun to drive. So for people who want a Model Y, really all you're getting is the added performance, and of course the autopilot, full self-driving, whatever, which that can't be beat. I'll give them that. This system lacks quite a bit comparatively to Tesla's system, but Tesla's is so great, this is still a good system. But if you're used to using Teslas, you're gonna be disappointed. I'll kind of show you the system here. So it's okay, especially on the highway. It does what it needs to do. But it doesn't, I feel like I have to watch this system, whereas in the Tesla, if I wanted to take a nap in that car, which I never did, but if I wanted to, I wouldn't feel like I'd have to worry about myself. Like it would beep really loud or whatever. But this will kind of just, it's not as precise. So every so often it'll go over the lines a little bit and then come back over. But I mean, for the most part, you got to keep your hand on the wheel a lot more than you would in a Tesla anyway. So that won't be an issue. But adaptive cruise with lane centering in general just makes driving so much easier. But you'll see, like coming around this curve here, it kind of bounces outside and then corrects itself. But overall, the wind noise in here is really good. I think it definitely is better than it was in my Tesla. But of course, Tesla's sound system was great compared to this one. I feel like if they would have done a Bose 8-speaker system with a subwoofer, they would have been good to go. But like I said, it's just lacking a little bit. But I'm gonna put it into the whisper mode, and that dials everything back quite a bit. It really is an eco mode in itself. And as you can see, it's still quick coming out of corners and whatnot. I'm just gonna pull up the trip computer. Oh, it's already pulled up actually. So it's showing how much of my battery has been used due to the climate controls, due to the actual driving, and then of course my accessories and just the outside temperature to keep the battery at the optimal temperature it needs to be used. And because of where the center of gravity is on this car, it takes corners really well. In the sense that it doesn't become tail happy just coming out of corners unless you actually give it throttle out of corners, or actually into corners. But if you take a corner fast, it won't necessarily start to lose control where maybe a regular Mustang would, or even a regular SUV would. So I've never felt, even though this isn't an all-wheel drive model, I've never felt like I was needing to let off in a corner or losing control just randomly. Everything is always, even when it burns rubber, it's still very precise in how you'd want it to drive. And on a road like this that has lines, you can actually use the full kind of semi-autonomous driving. And like I said, it is a little buggy, so but it'll stop and all that. We'll give it some throttle here. And of course, that's still in the whisper mode and still super quick. And in this car, you tend to see your quick acceleration after you hit about 10 miles an hour and so on. But from a stop, it's a little sluggish off of the line. But that also, I've never done a burnout in this car from a dead stop. Whereas in the Tesla, it'll do that. But that's probably why, even though the Model 3 is said to be more efficient than this, I get way better range. And if I drive this in whisper and don't try to use up a bunch of energy, this gets about the same, in my opinion at least. I feel like it's just as efficient as the Model 3 is. And even though the EPA doesn't say that, I just feel like this drives the same, and the Tesla seems to be more thirsty than it should be based on the numbers. But of course, this only has less than 7,500 miles, and I got my Tesla with about 28,000 miles. So battery degradation might have been a thing too. But like I said, the Model 3 also just gives out more power. That's why it's faster, feels faster. But in my opinion, this seems to be the more practical option, especially with that $7,500 tax credit. And this is going to bring me to the end of my review of my 2021 Ford Mustang Mach E California Route 1.